your dad neugire ndigukurihira school
fees. Sure. Niarageta piu.
Dara support
yes.
Return ria kuria kuingira into the religious life. Nakuru must have been one of the challenging,
one of the most difficult diocese in tribal crashes.
Na nduri mweno nginyita bari wa thirikari.
No.
We now kafiraisi sio
yeah, because now there you know it is a metropolitan, you have everybody, whether it is Luo, Luya, Kalejini, Kamba, Kikuyu, everybody.
My Lord Bishop, do you foresee udutosio kihanika rigi tondu kwironda itahonire?
Sure. Orune kwirihiria, you know, because I still feel we need that reconciliation.
Na riu twina one of our own twitikite iguru atuthaithanagirira.
Yes.
How does that make you feel?
Yeah. So we are very happy. You know, we research. Na bring all those information nigetha Roma getikire. Na ninge kuthura gwetikira ati we beatified thini wa Nyeri in Kenya, in Africa, instead of being Rome and being a Consolata. So there in the Kimathi grounds there, we are very happy.
Ngatho cia mwanya mwiroreri ni guthie na mbere na gucagura channel ya metha ya Kagoni. Njitagwo Monica Kagoni ngikunyita ugeni thiini wa segment itu ya The Legends haria tukoragwo tugikungwira andu marigatu thiini wa society itu na matigite gatu kana ngumo o uguo bure, no ni andu maneka maundu manene muno hari gukuria miturire ya Kenya thiini wa fields itiganite. Na mbere ya ngumenyithitie mugeni uria nyitite ugeni muthenya wa umuthi nyambe nguririkanie ati tafarire eno turahotithio gukurehera ni undu wa kunyitwo guoko ni kambuni yo ikaine ta AMG Realtors aria turakumenyithia turi na migunda kuria mwena wa Nanyuki brotisha 50 by 100 ukenderio na ciringi 229 na ugitia brotishi ri witikirie uge uheo offer ya Monica's neighbor, offer ya Monica's neighbor, na ukuhurira mundu gwito Martin nigetha kuhe offer no na namba eno turakuhe haha maguru-ini ma screen. Now mugeni uria nyitete ugeni muthenya wa umuthi metha-ini ni mugeni wi gatu muno, mundu ukoretwo agikuria bururi wa Kenya na njira nene muno kuruira ihoto cia a Kenya, ari kana arugamite kuma mwena-ini wa kanitha, ni mutongoria wa kanitha, na ndiragutariria iguru rigie muthikafu wa mbere wa diocese ya Murang'a no ria riu ni Archbishop Emeritus Peter Kairu. Ukujitekeria nyite ugeni His Grace Peter Kairu. Karibu sana muthikafu.
Thengiũ mũno.
Nĩ ngatho nĩ gwĩtĩkĩra gũka metha-inĩ. Na ndirehoka nĩ ndagwĩta na taito iria ciagĩrĩire.
Sure. No, it's true.
Karibu sana askofu. Na twakena nĩ ũndũ wa gũtũnyita ugeni gũkũ mwena wa Nyeri. Na hihi bishop tukiambĩrĩria no nyende to straight to the point. Twambe tumenye Archbishop Peter Kairu no hihi waciarĩirwo kũ, unini waku wahanaga atia?
Nĩ thengiũ Monica. Nĩ ũndũ wa gũka kamakwa na yatũterete ũhoro wa ũtũũro wakwa. Koguo kĩũria kĩa mbere ũranjũria kũrĩa ndaciarĩirwo.
Waciarĩirwo kũ?
Koguo nĩ ndaciarĩirwo kaunti ya Nakuru handu hetagwo Rodiani. Nakuru. 24th of May 1941.
1941? Hey, my Lord Bishop, but you still look very energetic.
Thank you. Mũciĩ gwitũ twarĩ ciana 10. Anake ana, sorry, 5 na airĩtu 5. No mwanake ũmwe ũrĩa wanũmĩrĩire nĩ ahurũkirwo nĩ Mwathani. Na thĩinĩ wa mũciĩ nĩ niĩ mũkũrũ.
Nĩwe firstborn?
Nĩ firstborn thĩinĩ wa family. Na my father arutaga wĩra wa mbaũ, bundi wa mbaũ. Ũcio nĩguo wĩra arutaga.
Gwatura mbaũ?
Kana gũthondeka akorwo nĩ itĩ kana metha, ta mũthĩre yothe. tutwera atari food wa bao ko nake niguo to aikaga ko niko niko ndaciareirwo na niko ndaikureire na niko ndambirie primary school na Rolian Township na guthii cukuru rita rĩa mbere ndio gutia na mabuku twatumagira thiriti ndikana you know the slate cia tene cia tene ile twatumagira thiriti tutiathumagira mabuku
mutiathumaga na mabuku
twatumagira kira twatumagira thiriti icio niguo twambĩrĩirie iko guo rĩu my father rĩ ni athia ekwetha wĩra kundu na kundu kuingi ko kaingi ndakoragwo muciĩ ko rĩ twaikora twĩ muciĩ twĩ na my mother na my brothers and my sisters koguo nĩ ũndũ wĩ mwana wa mbere ona kwa ni uhoro wa muciĩ no ũgĩciria kurora ciana icio cikumĩte thutha for example aikwa rĩngĩ nĩ kumarugira kana ko nĩ tutanathie cukuru gwakia mwaki na twekaga ũguo utuku twarikia andu marikia kuria nigetha ruci ndukanatinda ũgĩthĩnĩka gwetha mwaki twathikaga na muhu makara nigetha rucinĩ rĩ wokĩra rĩ no kũinainia bas arabu rĩu wakĩongera makara wakĩrugaga cai mwakĩnyua na magĩthiĩ cukuru
koguo bishop we nĩwe warugagira cai
na ona kũmakua arĩa marĩ anyinyi na kumahe irio you know ĩtondũ wendio my mother icon agĩthiĩ mũgũnda rĩ rĩu nĩ wagĩtuo mũciĩ koguo no mwaka na gwĩteithĩrĩria tondũ nĩ mwana wa mbere koguo nĩguo ingiuga na njĩra nguhĩ ndambĩrĩirie ũtũũro wakwa thĩinĩ wa taũni ya Rodiani mbere hĩndĩ yarĩ under Nakuru no rĩu ĩrĩ under Kericho rĩu ĩrĩ under Kericho district Kericho county yeah that's right
okay so my lord bishop ndũciarĩirwo thĩinĩ wa mũciĩ tũngiuga ati wĩgwete
thĩinĩ wa mũciĩ twarĩ athĩni andũ aciarĩ ko marĩ athĩni matiarĩ itonga ũguo nguhoro wa mũthure Joseph he was just a simple man on my father na my mother you know matiarĩ itonga na ona maumĩte kĩrĩa Mĩoro kĩrĩa Mũrang'a
Mĩoro
niko maumĩte
na kũrĩa gwa Kamũtho
ni
haya
matanoka Rodiani rĩ niko maikaraga macoka ndũ hĩndĩ yo rĩ ndũ thĩinĩ wa Central Province rĩ itumĩgũra tuthia tukinyia no mwaka maumeja mathi magethe kĩrĩa
yes
oro na mĩaramano ũguo noguo naguo my parents mekire koguo makĩhikania maika Rodiani ugo no mambĩrĩrie ũtũũro wao
kũu Rodiani
that's right
na nyota yaku ya gũtuĩka fatiri kana kũingĩra in religious life yauma kũ
okay koguo rĩ ndakiuma Rodiani rĩ ngicoka my aunt Corin my grandparents na my aunt magĩthiĩ Elbagon gĩcagi koguo maiko nĩ gwandĩkĩtwo thĩinĩ wa forest yũra magĩthiaga wako nĩ kũhanda mĩtĩ kana gũceha nĩ makĩheo handũ maga clear mũgũnda makanda wako nĩ mbembe kana nĩ waru kana nĩ njũgũ kana nĩ mboco koguo rĩ nani rĩ ngĩmũrũmĩrĩra koguo kũu nĩ kũtaikaraga nao koguo rĩ kuma rĩu gĩcagi rĩ twathiĩ nginya Elbagon St Peter's primary school rĩu thĩinĩ wa cukuru kũu rĩ nĩ twakĩna arutani mĩthemba different teachers twarĩ no ũmwe watũthomithagia Gĩthũngũ na ndini no aumĩte Kakamega etagwo Roman Machete but he passed on rĩu nĩ agĩtũthomithagia na agatwĩra atĩrĩ thĩinĩ wa Kakamega rĩ kwao rĩ nĩ makoragwo mena fathers ya andũ airũ koguo akiuga atĩrĩ no korwo na inyuĩ rĩ no korwo nĩ mũkeithia gũtuĩka abatĩrĩ hau nĩho ĩretana rĩakwa rĩaumire koguo rĩu ngĩthiĩ na mbere gwĩciria kwaranĩria na gũthoma tũbuku ta twa Don Bosco Dominic Kipsavia na ũguo nĩguo ndonire one day ndĩ mũgũnda rĩ gũcia kwarĩ mũthenya wa Saturday gũcia nĩ kũrĩma ndarĩmaga ngĩigua ndaigua ta ingĩra gũtuĩka batĩrĩ but then I didn't know how rĩu ndakiuga atĩrĩ no mwaka njũrie how can I become a priest rĩu fathers witũ rĩ parish aikaraga Moro mission yarĩ Moro rĩu okaga as a outstation Elbagon matambire mission rĩu nĩ ngĩgĩthiĩ kimwe atĩrĩ no nyende gũtuĩka father wakĩnjua atĩrĩ nĩ ũkahota gutora we father utaikaneti utana mutumia gimwera yes negugeria. That's how it started. Ukiwa atiri no mwaka rĩu apply iguthi minor seminary kwa kiandika marua Kiserian Queen of Apostle Seminary niko yari minor seminary giandika makejoke makejeta aciari aku ri akombe thini wa Nakuru ri tutige kuoya tondu matire uko Nairobi kwa dia kuire ngoro geria St Paul Seminary goko Nyeri na haria geria kuri father rector na akijira aciari aku ri matire uko thini wa Nyeri
ndungioyo guko
ikiwa na what do I do? I never gave up. Giandika ningi akijate no kwandika wandike Moy's Bridge Matuda makora ne kumana seminary ya minor seminary ya Edwet ya umete kuma olodwa ginya escapement
Nakuru diocese
Edwet diocese. So giandika I never gave up. Giandikira father rector akijokiria akijira yes you can come kugekena muno. You know, my father dagotire kule school fees.
Okay. When Bishop direkaga research yaku ri he handu ugaga atiriri hindiria waugire ni ukuingira minor seminary your dad ne ugire ndigukurihira school fees.
Sure. Ni aregeta piu
dara support
yes
returnary yaku ri akuingira into the so did he ever pay at any one time waigira?
No.
He didn't.
So what happened? On itana the seminary ntwa thita mathako moro ekuma Rubagon ginya moro on foot magicamania nietete mucemanio wa my uncles marie rihoro wakwa atikuga ati ningwenda guthi gutuika muvea so no mwetu wa ndeithirie ogire reke athie akongai ni amwitite ri it's okay akonda mwitite na agatucokerera oyo nawe wandeithirie
maregaga niki wingire thini wa
but ona ogikuyu-ini ri our culture mwanake wa mundu wa mwanake wa mbere ri thimatikana mwanake arike githomo ahikanie nigetha atue akone ithe na nyina brother. So it was a traditional culture
na tigirwo ni ithe
exactly wakonekera ni inheritance uramati so he was following our culture. So we mwana wa mbere na nigucia nikio giatuma auge no ndogo ndigwitigira no uri mwana wa mbere sasa na mwaka ukiambe githomo urikie githomo nigetha wakiona wira ri ona ugiteithire kutugothimithia your brothers and your sisters. Sure.
So were the rest seminary against his wishes?
So what happened now then githikure kuri father ucio wa father late Father Bernard Cunningham ne ware a parish priest kuga ake volunteer kudehera school fees miaka yothe na they were five, I think there were 5 to that standard 8 1960
1960 ni gwathire standard 8
ni matunda standard 8 so the dad St Peter's up from 5 to 7 then dagitikirwo ri from standard 8 githiire uginya matunda na twathire na ngari ya mwaki kuma Nakuru tugithie ginya Edwet twakinya Edwet tugicenjia ni tuwe ngari ya guthie Kitale ni twakinya ri matunda ri tume na mirigo itu tugithie seminary ugo ni gudathire kore father kani wake kidaithĩria miaka yothe 5 ngikirĩhĩra na ngirĩkia tuweka Cambridge ndio toka Cambridge ndukiathondekagĩrwo UK Cambridge then after that ni akogagi ndacokire kure thina ndingi my father ethoro father ni agitikira kurihira school fees
na major seminary ukuingira mwaka uriko
okay ito twakirikia form 4 1964 niguo rake our rector irari mutongoria wa seminary ni agitwitaga eri kirathi kiu kirarikirie we about 13 or 14 ewakiuria no kwenda guthi na mbere na na father studies major seminary Langata St Thomas Aquinas seminary riu othe agi maugire aca ni ngwera guthie na nja nyambe rute wira hagena kothi maybe later on nga join seminary not what you tureriri ucio ngiari mwarimu nake but onake ni agumire so we say no ngekimwana ngekera father no ngwera guthie na mbere na thina wa seminary so we finished age 64 I think maybe around December ngicoka mucii moro then father ki near Mausumiti there near how kwena kina na keno toto ni hana shukuru ya Pele primary school ko githomithia mweri umwe mweri wa January then February niko da joinire St Thomas Aquinas Seminary Langata the seminary
okay haya mwiroreri ukwambotitekeria o hanini tuno turaraniria na the Archbishop Emeritus wa Nyeri His Grace Peter Kairu na ukwambotitekeria o hanini tu ni turacokereria
okay.
Gicunjĩ gitu gĩa kerĩ gĩa tabarĩra ya metha ya Kagoni uthie na mbere na subscribe ririkana ku like the video na gutwandikira comment yaku tunyitite ugeni the Archbishop Emeritus Archdiocese of Nyeri His Grace Peter Kairu agitutariria iguru rĩgie muturire wake na tukimukungwira as a legend, a living legend. My Lord Bishop, thank you muno ni gukuhe. This is such an honor, ni wega muno ni kuhe this honor. Na Bishop wa kunurirwo which year after guthoma the major seminary miaka igana?
Kwa twa ndaki join St Thomas Aquinas Seminary twabagira na philosophy miaka 2 ara philosophy theology miaka 4 ko yothe ni 6 ko dagithii ko da join 1965 mweri wa kere tukirekia 1970 mweri wa maybe August or June or July there twakirekia ri ino makare rikuri stages ira mundu athiaga ogoro athoma ko ri wakirekia philosophy wambire theology ya mbere ukaheo the first stage ko wathi na byo kyago stages icio ciothe ko kuri tende ciari kuigura murango porter gutugata mitha acolyte agodi gutwika subdeacon na deacon deacon no mwako no thome iji no hujie no batithie
o deacon no ufatithie
yes yeah na no dikane no you can conduct kila madiko the funerals yeah na no radime bohiki if you have the permission because you have to be registered in adrikari the register of marriages no you have to be registered kwa much more than no mwaka ukoro uhigitie when you become a deacon then kwa wale da twakirekia ri gigicoka Nakuru kwa ndakwira ati tutia na bishop
ndio Nakuru
1966 diocese ya tu diocese 1968 nigo ya spiritual from Eldoret kwa ile tu ya kilina Nakuru district na Baringo na East Pokot it was sub county okay ya Baringo so those three ginya kule kuma escapement kwa ule twakirekia ri tugithi kwa kushwa kule Monsignor Newman who was our administrator ni atukibange horo wa ordinations ni wakitokibanga muthenya uriku tugithura na no ugita ya tuge bishop ugo kunura kwa gori twikithura mweri 8 mweri 11 1970
mweri 8 November
1970
nirio ugukunurwo
yeni no twakiritie bishop ule wale auxiliary wa Edweti Bishop Emilio Jiro no ageni muciiri from Kivote had a Samson corner he had an accident so he died there and there
oh no
yeah he was going home So now niguo muciari then who is going to ordain you? Ethero Bishop ora wathure ni aretirwo. Niguo ndake suggestire Bishop Dingi. Yari Bishop wa Machakos.
Hedio.
Twathia mathiko ikiria Embu Kivuti. Agigitikira Bishop Dingi. Kone wagunire mweri 8 mweri wa 11 1970.
We wika kana mwari nagi.
Dad wale onyiki.
Wale wika.
Wale onyiki. It was a big ceremony. How more Marymount. How uja. Ne ndakunoreirwo.
Baba wanyu ni okire muthenya ucio na ni
akuheanire. Andũ amũciĩ rĩu twarĩkia rĩ akiona kwenda kwaria mbere ya mithe athire. Akiuga atĩrĩrĩ hĩndĩ ya father enda gũtuĩka father ndamũgirĩtie. No rĩu rĩ ndakena atĩ nĩ atuĩka fatiri. So you were very happy, because you should so he was very happy afterwards. They all became very happy. Or even those who were opposing me, anyway, we became friends afterwards. Yeah.
So where the first station no go to get or rather parish. No ku Nakuru.
If that kunurore. Ne Monsini and then Bishop Dingi. I love give you rutha holiday kana honeymoon. You need a tighter.
Honeymoon.
Yes, because and my friends one of my classmates kumataita. Kondathire kumasherera. So it was during November, December there. So I was there with them and we had a beautiful day. It is very hilly, cloudy. It is very hilly, but it was beautiful. And the Christians were Mari. I felt so happy. Dairogo konyige. So the talking the kia dash wakana Nakuru. Go to that care point war church with the whole rosary Nakuru. It Matanaka Cathedral. Dauna father showale our parish priest Morore. Agishejo. Akireho Nakuru. So he was our parish priest. And not that knew that kodale. The first African priest.
The first African priest.
In Nakuru diocese.
In Nakuru diocese.
1970.
Wow.
All the Mary missionaries. Irish. So, but then
when we were mudu muiru. In Nakuru diocese. Wow. Hey, we celebrate you, my Lord Bishop.
Thank you.
Yes. No, and sorry, to get to your life as a bishop, because there's so much in your life as a bishop.
Yes.
The Bishop of Nakuru diocese.
No, what happened now?
No, not Nakuru.
Muranga,
yes.
Okay. So that one now, okay. I went to the States for studies for 2 years. 74, 76. Get to lay apostolate and vocation promoter. 1976 get to more St. Thomas Aquin. As a spiritual director. 5 years
of the seminary.
Catechist and pastoral. 5 years. Bishop Digni Gaishoka Gejeta Nakuru. You are the first priest come back. So at Obe, Gaishoka. So that Gishoka 1981, maybe after May, so I came appoint at the cathedral, the new cathedral, as an assistant. Later on as a vicar general. So now that was 81. I wasn't there for a short time. 81, 82, 83. After Easter, I think it was during the Holy Week. Akejeta have a letter here. From Pope John Paul II. That the new Bishop of Muranga.
Of Muranga.
Yes.
Na Bishop Mudo ni gucukirwa acukagirwo miti agithuro muthikabu niwe wikagia application.
Ne modo ikagia application.
Thia atia.
Weka guo. Wako makwenda gutwara diocese ya Muranga kana any diocese. Kono makiethe candidates. The nuncio. Mwikaria wake wa pamotheru. The nuncio. Akora Nairobi. Ino makarute homework. Whether research.
No getweka.
Either from Nyeri, from Nakuru, from Kisumu, from Eldoret, Mombasa, Nairobi. So kama udumasho mothe. Akiona kile aikora na marito matatu. Agatuma Rome. Na congregation for evangelization na magaikara thima kiorora wega. Rimagashika makafu ari kuri Pope.
Acio mari Rome matakioi
Father
Peter Kairu guku.
Matikero mahetwo all the details.
All the details.
Yes, kura watho uria wathomire, kura utete wira, your character, what you have been doing. Maundu macio no mwaka before he makes the decision, no mwaka akorwo in all that information.
A Cristiano nimekurio tari Father Githinji mumuonaga atia. For example.
Thegi matiuragia kaingi moragia wako ni a bishop. Kana riwa ko father ucio wanunza akoni auka gushera. Maybe hata kuria ma fathers. Just to hear what do they say about so and so. Neither all that information. So he has to have relevant information. Unigetha nake aka compile. About every candidate. Wako ni ana kani ataratu. To the congregation in Rome, na maikarathi they makona magatuiria makona they ma suitable they magetuma forward to the Pope unake ni waudhuraga
nake agathura umwe wao.
That's right.
So gutiri handu hokaga ati election kana ki
no
na no turege tari tungithurirwo mundu ta Cristiano no tuge tutikwenda Father Githinji Bishop witu.
Yeah, but it is not right. Eto tukiuga atiriri mundu athurwo nigetha tuike muriithi.
Yes.
Gutungatira andu othe are methine wa Archdiocese kogine kuraga thina ucio like for example like now in southern Sudan they had a case but others most of the time so far in Kenya didalikana kuna that case
so ni wa point to as the first bishop
now okay they matananirira no makinige makuru matume informe ko bere matume nuncio na kenuzia orie de kiria your bishop mashamani nake mwere okay Pope Francis can for example like now together from Francis has chosen Father Githinji to be the Bishop of Bungoma kana Lodwar kana tuike Archbishop wa Nairobi like now since Kanaju has retired so now ni mbona yoragio what are your feelings so okayo kaida wecirie na we reflect nigetha coke omushokerie
uguo no uge
sha no uge sha most of the time but sometimes they say yes.
They say yes. So ni wa point as the first bishop of Muranga.
Correct.
Ne bishop ne diocese yetarariho.
Yeah.
So your biggest task yari was set
kwambiriria to start from scratch. Ona nyombaga diary. Githie ku after the ordination. Udakale mission St Mary's for 1 year.
Yes.
Kwa Bishop Atimori nore Father Baroko ne wari in charge of the administration. Hali horo wa kanyumba. Bishop Haumura. Kwa daikali twikana na Father Ngoshi. He was the parish priest the late mission kathido ko mwaka omwe before the house was built. Kawabishi kali kani. We renovated. Very small. Then me nyumba ya Father my mare thina tora kamuparedikari kani very so but somebody else helped us to have a bigger pipe for bringing water. But then all those we have no office, no bishop's house, no secretariat. So you are true now nego tukatire muda tukamo bishop ule at nemo theni now makawe how do you now start right from scratch? Nigetha thina mbere au wakone na kira methini wa seminary where do you get the money to support them? The way thona mari school fees
aria maumite thini wa diocese
Muranga those who are for example whether they are Christ the King kana St Thomas Aquinas kana Mabanga so you have to see how do we help them wakone fathers then wa mission legi duke mode ya ukirwara
me cooperate
how do they operate so all those things you have to see then how do you do it so you have to mobilize the Christians and because okay ntwake your diocese then how do we run it yeah you know so you have to say okay maybe we start maybe a fundraising tuone ora tungehota guteithika ona ko ni means ona ko ni tari wako ni ngatero Father Githinji atumira you are going to ordain more priests where are you going to how do you give them means
yes
all those things they tugatire even I remember okandika marwa Europe and America to donors whether they be ready to help you to start a new diocese and you have to make we may have to make a journey to Switzerland to some of the donors Whether teithio. Tuna Father Martinelli, he used to be at Tudo. Then I was given by the consulators. So we went to Zurich. We finished one donor. So we were supposed to go to the other donor by train. Ha. Fala kijana tina besha kuigana.
Tia guthie rugendo ru.
Cia gutinia tigiti wa mogithi. So what we did, it is well difficult. Kwa ni akueta kutobatik. Itoko friends. Tundu tu edirie. Ediare, that's how we got there. Besha gutinia tigiti.
So that does ira tuonaga ya Murang'a the secretariat.
Yes, yeah. Those are new. They are not there. We have to look for money.
Yeni. Murang'a waikara miaka igana?
14
years.
Yes. Miaka 14.
Ugo ni mwana agaciarwo ugabatithia no kahekipa imara.
Exactly. Makaikanio tugathikana all those different things. Magatua kunura ara mama tweka fathers. Kana ko ni my sister like sisters of Emmanuel. You don't know to we started with them. Sisters Emmanuel. And also it was not very easy. Because of how do they support themselves? If they are new and they study, how do you educate them? But God was very good. Na Christo they were really very generous. They were very kind. And that's how we were able to go to really kwambiriria. Na go ikukinyukia kinya to kinya hau tukinyete. Before Bishop Kairu took over. When I was transferred
to Nakuru. How was Nakuru? Na washoka mushi kwanyu.
Tugatire no prophet is accepted at home. Now how am I going to fit the shoes of Archbishop Dingi? For 25 years.
For 25 years.
And he was tough.
Yes.
With the Moi.
Yes.
Politically.
Yes.
But he stood.
Now so I said, stronghold.
They are 97, they are clashes. It was not very easy. It was very difficult. I remember in Ogidina Maunarok, we have one parish there. Liwa ndo ne matururirwo kwao mission eshinirwo we don't know what, na all the marorira mission
clashes riu ni ciukire 1997
na mabira gucina manyumba na marorira ku mission so we had to be forced kuheria blessed sacrament thina wa kanitha nigetha matumire maikare kanitha na marare ku. What could we do? There was no any other place which was secure. Neno makoeshire horo wa idio mai dawa, it was guo, it was terrible. Ginya hedere ukire maybe there was clash ya githira. So it was not very easy. Na ningi wao na ndwako nya donors they were also very helpful. Eguteithĩrĩria ashumama makitomishi yao. Some of them were very kind, they helped them to try so that they can resettle. But it was a painful experience.
Dreda tobe my Lord Bishop tobe to break hanini. There's so much kwaririria iguru regie na ikuru. Kogo gutekeria tobe turugame o hanini tu. Turashokereria.
Okay.
Turi gicunje gitu gia gatatu gia tabarira ya metha ya Kagoni the legend tunyitite ogeni His Grace the Archbishop Emeritus wa Nyeri Most Reverend Peter Kairu na Bishop ni wega ni guthie na mbere na kwaraniria na ithuĩ tugithie break ni ukwambitie kwaririria iguru rigie the tribal clashes thĩinĩ wa Rift Valley with Bishop wa Nakuru. Githoma geka research ya muturire waku he uria wari PC wa Rift Valley etago Kagoni. There's one time he said that when warutire elders a Rift Valley mukana no kimera ni kumakas if they don't stop the tribal clashes na kiuria hi mundu angeuria ni atire my Lord Bishop kai clashes ici cikoragwo ci well planned well organized ginyagia ikagea na the blessings of the elders guku we urona no the elders magirugamia haro ici is that the case?
Thank you. That kiuria kiega tondu tucira atiriri you know they know Rift Valley ri atongoria ri na elders they have power to say yes or to say no.
Yes.
Kwa wana hili ciothe githuna gikiambiriria ri no maka organize it anigetha mahote kweheria none maybe if you allow me none collegians na nigetha andu ao ri mathurwo. So that's what the always happened before any elections, whether it is 1996 or 97, 2002, and the worst 2007. Kwa gori atongoria yao na athuri yao the elder and they have power. Kono makoro maikarete thi magacira makona uria maguta kwihariria na nigetha githuno kia kinya mate guthera andu ao. So it is politically motivated. That's what I feel.
So anake aya matiumagira all spontaneous.
No, they were organized. In the way they military. Just like the military. They were, so they must have been well prepared. They know when to attack, what to do, and where the house how was maybe they were all young people. And maybe some of them matena na mawera kana gehi mari na shukuru mari na mashukuru, but then because they were promised to be given money, then they had to do all that destruction, which was not very good, very fair. Yeah, God duko no gugatiriri athuri acio ri na atongoria acio ri nio magierire anake acio itweka uru. We are very sorry. But then it never happened.
Did they listen to you?
Niko gugatire twathondekete kiria etewate interreligious denomination na pastors ya dini cingi ni ndo ku promote thayo kwani twagithiana ku mwena wa mwaragania na kurusoi twakishana na athuri acio etakimoria lakini ninyi wazee kwani mnakida wakati kabla ya uchaguzi kuna kuwa na vita na kuchomeana nyumba kila mara watu watiri unajua sasa ni sisi shetani ndiye anatudanganya
shetani
ndiye anatufanya tufanye hivi okay, but every time so you cannot push them anymore further but that's why they told us that was the devil who was deceiving them that the shetani wa maya nagia and the other crash ya Nyeri makere anakere. Yes.
My Lord Bishop direciria hihi na giturwa status yaku as the Bishop of Nakuru no nginya ukorwo ni wariletaga na the then President Moi na 2007 the then President President Kibaki. Ne wakoragwo na, did you ever reach out to maybe tamoyo guo mwire haro ino ni thire?
As a conference, we tried several times. Ego di kumungetia na kumwera na what is happening. It is not right, but no, they take that there was are responsible. He never agreed in principle. Never agreed. Na leo nigiri do eri ara twato ara kaige twacemania na ori either na DC kana DO kana PC yara mathi no Rift Valley and they had power. But not na leo wako nene ya polisi. No idea only there was a division even within the police force. So they could not help you.
To mwathie mwaria gutiri undu gwikwo.
Twathi wabici yake tugaikara thi tukaria nao. That's the end.
Uhoro guthirira hau.
That's the end. So we felt that we were powerless. Wona regi father makahurira thimu utuku. Tatha inyanya kana thaa kenda. Makayara bishop ne mabira gucina mecii. Ndugithio utwetere uteithio. Wapi. Thacio tuko. So you felt helpless. Nobody could help you. To help our people, as I said, even to prevent Either wako ne gucina na mĩciĩ, uici wa mahiũ, wako ne ng'ombe, wako ne mbũri, kana ne ng'ondu, all those things. And there was a lot of distractions. Now to rebuild again, it was makirwara. Sure, if you lose everything, you will become also affected. Yeah, nikurwara.
Haya haro ya horerari andu aya amwaria mekuruwagari they are members of your of the church.
Yeah.
Macoka kanitha-inĩ ri, how do you relate with them, and do you feel nĩ gwekirwo reconciliation ya kuigana yaku kana rigĩrĩria ũndũ ta ũcio kũhanĩka rĩngĩ?
Ngwĩciria haro ya thirarĩ nĩ mathondekire commission for reconciliation, but they didn't do very much. Koguo that that bitterness ĩrĩoho. I think the reconciliation has taken part. I don't know bitter ati maĩ na mĩgũnda matirimaga kana ini oirwo kana maĩ na nyũmba nĩ ciatharirio nĩ ciacinirwo waina mahiũ makĩiywo ona kũu na kumwena ũcio wa mwaragania na kĩrĩa na Kiriso irĩ agĩko matingĩiga nyũmba ng'ombe ciao nja cikaragio thĩinĩ no ciao itiagwo no cia Gĩkũyũ ũcitiga hau nĩ ikũiywo.
So my Lord Bishop, do you foresee ũndũ ta ũcio ũkĩhanĩka rĩngĩ tondũ kwĩ ironda itahonire?
Sure. Oru nĩ kwĩrĩhĩria, you know, because I still feel we need that reconciliation. Ito tukiwa atirĩrĩ, either to Kenyans, we are all Kenyans. Na Kenya, on even our constitution, you got really no, you can go anywhere, and you can settle anywhere, and you can own property anywhere, provided you do not steal, you do not use any corruption to even to get that land. So if we to respect our constitution, you get it. No, you can go anywhere.
Yes.
Digwishira na modo maundu macio mamirari andu makanyita magatwara igoti-ini na magatwirwo. Imagine now, for example, now okuja horo wa Father Kaiser up to today tutiramenya who killed Father Kaiser. Are all those maybe were suspected? Nobody. Utire mundu wa watwara igoti-ini na gacirithio ona cira werwo ucokio riko. No, the government never took any step. Okay, the example, even our Father Michael Dodeka, what I waragiro, between Eldama Ravine and
my post-election.
Yeah, indeed. 2008, he was killed. Nanake makenyitwo, na maitwara igoti-ini Nakuru, makirekererio, all of them. Makiwa there was no evidence. We don't know who killed Fr Kamau. Can you imagine?
And tutio who killed Father Kaiser.
Exactly. There are suspicions, but then still, it has never come clearly, even through the court. Those people, those to be arrested, to be tried, and to be convicted and to be jailed. Nobody. Even I don't know how Fr Kamau oragirwo. He data in Nakuru. Tukana omba katodie midao. Ya remembrance na kumuhoera na tugethi nginya ho na tugethoreka plaque ya kwirikana just near beside the road thutha inere ndamwa kuore Bishop Muhati oka kuore ni wathe athuri mamweraga atiri Bishop reke tweherie kaiga karia it is making us feel bad as we are the responsible for the death of Fr Kamau. Bishop Kamau, no, I'm not going to remove it. No magithoreka para ya mathoreka para maikeheria. So that evidence was there.
It was there.
So, but they felt that they were guilty, but they could not say nobody touched them. All those who were arrested, they were released. Justice, there is not justice. Yes.
So, Father, my Lord Bishop Peter Father Kamau oragwo thĩinĩ wa post-election na weti mũgũnda thiĩte akagũraga akakũuka na biashara is a missionary.
Sure.
Literally is a missionary othiĩte kũhunjia kũu rĩ. Weyo ni bisha iratuonia atia
the tribal, get what were a tribe, you know that issue tribal because now it did not belong to the other Kiriari, the other ethnic tribe. And he was dressed in a Roman collar. He was coming to Nairobi and then you are for lunch because it was on Saturday. So I waited, nobody. There's somebody who has been attacked. ikembera mathi marore thini wa thibitari Mercy Hospital. No. So on to discover it is Fr Kamau. So I felt very bad. It was very sad.
Very sad. Tamudu, you've said you felt helpless.
Sure, yeah.
Did it depress you that the shepherd of that diocese yet utiriudura hota?
You know one thing you feel helpless. That here I am. I am the bishop of the diocese of Nakuru. I have tried to go to the even to the administration. Arema kuitira raia na nige kokoro kwina thayo
marega
na hakionekane marega. What do you do? So you feel helpless. You can't do anything. You know, I fathers, I cannot be able to help you. So I felt very bad, really very bad. Yeah.
Tukurehwa Nyeri, was it a relief for you?
Yeah, but still. Well, it was a transfer. I mean, it was a transfer. When Kano was transferred to Nairobi, just as I was transferred from Nakuru, I mean from Murang'a to Nakuru, it was a transfer. But still, I felt it because now our people, there they are. On a head ya crashes, and my parents, kuma moro, the Marina Ikuru, no makirega. My father refused. Yago to Tikuma. So I left them there. Yes.
Wow. Hey. Nakuru must have been one of the challenging,
one of the most difficult diocesan tribal crashes.
Na nduri mweno ginyita baru wa thirikari.
No.
We now
yeah, because now there, you know, it is a metropolitan. You have everybody. Whether it is Luo, Luya, Kalejini, Kamba, Kikuyu, everybody. So it's a hotspot. Yeah. So you have to serve everybody.
Yes.
That one I could 97. Kono mwaka nigiathire mwena wa Baringo kumenya all the parish where the parish as. Leo mato magasi ID uthikire ya ndirauga thina wa kanitha. You know, as I was going around, so they would tell me, you see they are either special branch.
Magithikire uri urauga.
Yeah, what am I saying? You know, Baringo was very much AIC, very strong. So Catholics, we were given not many, what can I say that? Freedom. Onakotara gutaithia ndwao kwambere even project, it was very difficult. Onaguthima cukuru ndo wa pastoral, it was very difficult. But now, after that, I say when the president now things changed. Now we can go anywhere. And it was very good. It was very good. On that kind of one of the parishes, twambiririe cukuru ya iretu. No athuri AIC magatugiria. Magatwara igoti-inĩ. Mako, no, this that is not yours. Move. Go out. So we had to go to court. And took some time before the case was cleared by the court. So and then
Okay, my Lord Bishop Nyeri Kuria, one of the highest highlights maybe of your service.
Yes,
beatification, yes, Sister Irene Nyada, and don't know how does that make you feel at during your time as the Archbishop of Nyeri? One of our own. How does that make you feel?
So we are very happy. Not only me, even I'm sure even Father Gedeji, he did out of work with the Father Baudena, even though I research. Na bring all those information together Roma getikire na ninge kudhura gwetikira ati wa beatified then wa Nyeri in Kenya, in Africa, instead of being Rome and being a Conservator. So there in Kimathi grounds there, we are very happy. So it made us proud. Even the government, we are very happy. They helped us very much. Even the president, they helped us very much. The former governor, Gachagua, who was here at that particular time. So they really have, so we all work together as a family, and that's how that why that beatification became very successful because we all work together as a team. And I'm really very happy. It made us proud up to date. Now all the more clear, now on the television, they were very happy. So we are really, even Father Giveja, I'm sure he's also very happy. If you ask him, very happy.
No naga tohorosio wakinderire witikio.
Sure. But we need to do more. Need our devotion. Yeah, bless Nyeri. Because you need somebody to keep on reminding Kristo that now we have got bless Nyeri. We have cathedral, a place where we have keep them. What do you call them? Lyrics. So that we can promote it, so that it becomes a big place, just like Namugongo. We talk about the Uganda matters, where they were killed by and even people from here go there on 3rd of June. So we like to pray also that even at Gekondi, where she worked and he died, then also it can grow, so that it can promote faith and devotion to our Blessed Virgin Mary, and also even to come closer to Christ. So we shall be very, very happy. So that's what we have to say. Even Archbishop Muheria, we are trying to say, what can we do to promote it, to be a good shrine, to promote this faith.
Okay. Waritaya, Nyeri.
Yes.
You had the option here go shoka Nakuru.
Sure.
Why didn't you?
So I had the options, because there are 3, just as you have said. Nyeri go kudarekeria, Nakuru kudabereria, na Nakuru. I mean Murang'a. So what? And they were all asking, where are you going to choose? So it was not a very easy decision. You know, for those about 9 years, I better rest here. But also people also no. Everywhere people we have been working together very good. Not go call it because now we are working together. I better rest here. So then the people are also very, very kind. To Eshamania, to the Kaka committee, Nido Akweda Kiharia, Enyobegi Yako. Now whether Nyobashi Abesha Wakanyoba. So people are very generous. We never Besha Wakanyobeno, Itiamida Naja. Not even a 1 cent, but from the Christians.
From the Christians.
So I'm really very happy, very proud.
Cool.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Ona mwathani omuthe ya ngigwita tungikuhurukia Nyeri.
Sure. But you know well, Nyeri is here. Intermissionaries, for example, somebody they say, take me back home. Now they get Agimadiketo near the memorial shrine, even Father Bogdana, who worked with Father Giveja for a long time, and he worked there actually for a long. So he never went back to Italy. So after if God Ajetari can also be buried here. No problem. Yeah.
Okay, my Lord Bishop Otugithiaga na bereri he debate koretwo ko ginyagia ugakora it's about celibacy. Ginya ugakora kuri afatiri ama maumire from the Roman Catholic tondu mararegana na celibacy. Makabia mwahugi. What is your take on afatiri? You're a priest forever. Uhorobegia afatiri kuhikania na orohori. Should the Catholic Church eheberie women priests?
Kokia bere. The fathers era my fathers, my kunoro, my tuka fatiri, my tungata even 10 or 5 years, some even more than that. My shamakiwa no. It is not easy to live a celibate life. Makaikania, makiabina makanida mao. Ewa kiwa tereri. Ogu toku teretaga. What then was seminary? Nero raya. For example, ira directly Christ the King. Sembo mida na ruto na students, philosophers and spiritual here. Nuda meraga tereri. Alo dera magaira. O gyota da guthina mbere miaka 8 urekie oyo kaida gagwiciria gakuona kana ukota gutwika okujora ihoro wa celibacy kana gutura utaikanĩtie kana ukora gwikania miaka yothe nanari ithe ndwetwo kaida wa gwiciria nigetha kuya yes na mona muri gutire mundu urigagire na hinya ona mundu atana kunurore ni ragio let those who want to be ordained come forward. Oh, there.
Makaumira.
Makaumira. So there is no force. Either kuma ashiari, kuma bishop, kuma vocation director. No, but so we say, on Isa Gatreri, Togama, Johanna Kumnak, Mother Kumnakeda. I saw you the Magi to celibacy. But it's a gift. Let him take it who can. Who can. Yes. So it's not a force. It is not true. Because for all those years, Magi Kunoro, Magi Tweka, they know how the Magi Karemi in Moranga. You know, Karemi. Yes. That he was forced to become a, let us say, to become a celibate. It is not correct. So we are all left free up to the last moment. No force. Wait. Yeah, wait. What about after reflection and prayer? Am I able? Yeah. And if you are not able to live the celibate life, then get married. Get married. Yes, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, I think there's a prayer it says. Yes, so there's no force. There's no force. Yeah. What about women priests? Only when our tradition, our culture. Exactly. So you go back even to our culture, even facing Mount Kenya, you know, Kenyatta. He is all those who are offering the sacrifice. But they were respected in their situation. No, arume aduri nani aduri they were also pure. Before they say they got to offer the sacrifice, you know, they could not sleep with their wives. So they had to be chaste. So even when on a Christ today, there were 12 apostles, men, not women. And if they were a lady, she was not chosen to become a priest, but she was chosen to become the mother of our Lord Jesus Christ. Yes. And she never complained that she was discriminated. She accepted. So exactly, yeah, within the church, yeah. We've seen the debate here, gayism. Yeah. Debate here, gayism. Yeah, sure. Homosexuality. Yeah. Now what we call some priests, then wamafuri manager are blessing gay unions, which is not right. It was not right. It on Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Question either 12-17 you can read. Even those who do sexual relationship of the same sex, it is wrong. It is not right. And Father my Genesis it is not good for a man and woman to live alone. I'll make him a helpmate, a companion. So marriage, on the word of my mother, he talks about marriage between a man and a woman, right from the beginning, the book of Genesis. Not between two women, not between two men, but a man and a woman. That's how they complement one another. So if with me also, I started with the church of saying no to same-sex marriage. It's not right. But Bishop, our brothers and sisters are in these relations. How do we win them? But maybe you can ask yourself, how do they come to that relationship? How do you bring up your child? So that he is able to go to the right way. So what is our response also as parents? I think also there we are failing. We are failing. So we have to also work together, either with the church and the parents, that even to see, even counseling. You know, you have all this department. No, it is not right. But even on our did we have a same-sex marriage? No. We did not have. It was either polygamy, yes, but not between two men and two women at the Maikani. It is not right. Yes. Polygamy. Yes. Public figures. Yes. And you know, these are people with influence. They influence our way of thinking. What is your take on polygamy? You see, also that's what I also say, that Christ, we are the Christians. We have to follow the teaching of the church. of Christ, not my teachings. No go thoma gatiriri. Ona go thoma kwa that Matthew 19. Can I even Mark? I think it's chapter 10. Ndiradikite hadu. Agweta tiriri. You leave your parents, and when you are joined to your wife or to your husband, you become one. Not between two. Not to your wives. No. One man, one woman. Yes. Monogamy. That's why even Christ has say upheld. On Hidea the Kana of Galilee. John chapter 2. It was between one man and one woman. Yes. Yes. So we have to go ahead with the teachings of Christ. Ogedama book ya Kano Junior entitled Feeling with the Church. Kwa no kona iturumire oria kanitha iratuthomithia because twishina cia kanitha niwe nyina witu na niwe mwalimu witu. Sure. Mbere aturikite hena ifuku ndirona nyitete hau. Maybe no taririe what that book is all about. Yes. Ikaniria muturire waku Archbishop Peter Kairu. Yes. Yeah. So da kire kuritaya ri now you have to have no mwaka we ohari kindu ne fusion that onad maga ithomaga kumare da utoro wako wothe as a life kuko tokwaragia my childhood githomo shukuru primary secondary uthima major seminary uthoma kurekia ukunurwo where did I stay, what are the challenges, utuika bishop in Moranga, what were the challenges in Nakuru due to the tribal clashes. Then Nyeri, how did you do, what were the challenges? So all those things. Then retire, what do you intend to do? So if you want to makaki and together to my journey from childhood to bishopric to retirement. And I got mark on the seminary, mark on their challenges, but still God gives you the grace to persevere, not to nabe utungate kanida. Nagotoria. Sure, nagotoria. Sure, the grace of God. If you could read Mudo Giri onako. Oh, yeah, well, no, I have some, this hardcover, but I have got some paperback. Okay. So you are to go to the idea Giriemo. You need to promote, you need to meet the expenses. And what are your name? Any Catholic bookshop? You can matter Nairobi. I don't know whether they have them. I'm not. Huh? Now they know Catholic bookshop. No, it's a committee. You do marketing. You know, it is very easy. You write a book, but marketing it's not very easy. Yes. So you need somebody with that skill. You can say yes. If you give me this job, I'll be able to continue promoting the marketing. Otherwise, you promote or you print so many books. They are there in the printing press. Nobody. You have to even publicity. Yes. Yes. True. Haya, na mwiroreri we ugienda ifuku riri ni tuguku namba ni no tukuhete haha. Yes. Ugilas nayo nigetha wone ifuku riri ria Archbishop Peter Kairu retagwo Molded for Service, my 50-year journey of priesthood. Ni autobiography ya Archbishop Peter Kairu na beno tukuhete haha na uhure nigetha hote kuona ifuku riri. Na hi my Lord Bishop tukirekereria ri hinde ya retirement yaku waugire utungata waku as a priest, as a bishop, as very exciting and very satisfying, but of course with challenges tayo tutarageria. Niki kiu kimwe tu witiagira ukauga this one niyo tumaga njigue yes ationa koro muthi uyu ndathama thi I have fulfilled my mission on earth. Kwa nini twagweta umwe iyo horo beatification ya Blessed Irene Nyatha which also very proud ni kwambiriria Radio Maria. Wow. Ndio utabia kirira na kuteithĩrĩria gukithira wĩtĩkia wa Kristo. Not only here in the country, even you outside abroad. Nĩmathikagĩrĩria like ũngĩũria gĩbara gĩthĩnji rĩrĩa twari UK. Nĩmathikagĩrĩria all the Kenyans or even in USA. Namatwĩra oh we are very happy. Wakoneta rĩu hĩndĩ na COVID. Mitha ageni makorwo marĩ mũci. No rĩu cathedral nĩ makona mitha on Sundays at 11 a.m. na githweri either Archbishop is there or I'm there, na igatuika broadcasted, and they watch. So they say, we are great, we are very happy. So this I can say that is one of my pride after retirement.
Radio Maria. Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you very much.
Parting shot yaku nijo ni wa maundu maingi muno.
Yes.
But one parting shot, especially turorete elections.
Yes.
Kwina the BBI talk.
Yes.
Kwina kielwe kitangatanga. Miahu ino yothe.
Yes.
What would you say, especially furori uronekana like?
Yeah. Nino kwa tuhoe. Tuhoere atongoria aitu. Matie kugayana. No methe wega wa bururi. Na makiria andu arethe, for example, ndu wa COVID-19. Andu aingi maratigirwo matai na irio, na micii, na school fees. Angi they lost their jobs. They are nowhere. Na rĩngĩ maingĩ matumaga thimu makaga, oh, Bishop, can you help us? You know, rĩrĩ tũrĩa tongoria rĩ twathurwo nĩgetha tutungataĩre raia a Kenya. Tumatĩre nĩgetha even to promote their welfare. So rĩu handũ ha gwĩciria always about ihoro wa iti unene do we think about the raia ũrĩa tugatĩre thĩinĩ wa kĩrĩa, na ningĩ even our wimbo wa taifa nĩ ũrũga mũno tutugaga tuungane pamoja bega kwa bega kujenga nchi yetu yake, hapana kuibomoa lakini kuijenga. Tugethere next year tukwae na githunare, I hope we are not going to have any more crashes. Turumire kihoto na rĩa maratongoria rĩ matongorie wega, na rĩa maroria campaign rĩ marie wega na thayo na marume kihoto, na arĩa magacindwo rĩ metikire gucindwo, na magacinda rĩ mone atĩrĩrĩ mabuthu nĩgetha nĩgetha mathi na mbere gutungatĩra bũrũri witũ wa Kenya, kukuria na gũtua kĩndũ kĩmwe. Umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni dhaifu. Na nĩgetha maũndũ macio mekĩkire 97, 2008, 7 and 2002 matikacoke enemo. Tuge never again shall we have clashes in our country Kenya. Na nĩgetha to respect our constitution. You can go anywhere, you can work anywhere, you can own property anywhere, provided you do not use corruption to get that property. So we respect our constitution. And ningĩ andũ magĩthomithio even about our constitution. BBI shira igoti-inĩ. So we wait and hear what is the court going to say about BBI. Thank you.
Asante sana. My Lord Bishop, thank you so much.
Yes.
Na mwiroreri o uria ndakwira ungenda ibuku riri ria Archbishop Peter Kairu, tugukuhe namba ĩno tukwandĩkĩire haha ũguo, uhure namba ĩyo nĩ ũkũdirectwo kũrĩa ũngĩona ibuku riri. Tukwaragia na His Grace Archbishop Emeritus wa Nyeri Peter Kairu agĩtũtarĩria igũrũ rĩgiĩ mũtũrĩre wake na maũndũ maingĩ mũno tutanagweta, na nĩkĩo he bata ũgũre ibuku rĩrĩ nĩgetha ũmenye maũndũ maingĩ makĩria megiĩ mũthikabu ũyũ ũrĩa ũtũtungatĩire kwa ihinda iraya. Ĩno nĩ metha ya Kagoni na niĩ njĩtagwo Monica Kagoni.